What's up YouTube? Welcome back, my name's Tony. Today we're going to look at the basics of automation and go over how basic automation can help your mix. So in this video I've got 3 tips for how to use automation, and let's jump right into them. So this is one of the obvious ones. The guitar player is going along playing his rhythm, and he breaks into a little lead bit to fill the gap. And you're working your way through your mix and you can kinda hear it, but you want it to be a little bit louder. So I used a guitar in my example, but in this demonstration we're going to be boosting up a bass riff a little bit. So here's a section of an instrumental song that I've been working on. So right before that solo kicks in, the bass does an interesting little run, so we want to bump that up just a couple of decibels. In case you didn't hear it, I'll solo it out for you. It's a little rushed, but I'll address that issue later. So to start drawing an automation curve in here, we're going to select the bass track, go up to this trim button here, and find under track envelopes, volume. I'm going to click that, make it visible, and that'll bring up this little green line here. That's your automation line. I'll back up for a second because there's a much easier way to make that automation line show up. You can simply select your track and hit V on the keyboard, and that'll make it pop up right away. So to draw an automation curve on here, again there's 2 ways to do it. Holding down Shift while you click on the line will create a couple of dots that you can move around to adjust your volume. But I find the easier way for something like this is to make a time selection by clicking and dragging over that riff, and then over on the left side of the screen here, clicking on this little knob will add automation points just before and just after your time selection on either side. Now you can use this knob as well to bring the volume up and down within your time selection, but I usually just use it to make those dots and then grab a hold of it with my mouse and bring up the volume. So now we brought that run up by about 3 decibels. Here's how it sounds. And there you go, it brings that riff out of the background and into the foreground, so you can hear it a little clearer. Adding just little automation tweaks like this can help your mix to be a lot more fluid. It's a pretty subtle thing, but if you don't use automation in your mix and nothing ever changes, your mix will come across as static, stale, even boring. And slight changes like that will help to direct the listener's attention where you want it to go. I use this one pretty often on the intros of songs. Everything starts off, your intro riff is playing right down the middle, but when the vocals come in, we've got to get that intro riff out of the way so that the vocals can be the center of attention. Here's a clip from earlier on in that same instrumental song I've been working on. We've got that clean intro riff going along right down the center, but when the lead guitar part comes in, that clean guitar part seems to just be mudding up the works by being right down the center. So in a similar way to getting your volume envelope up on these tracks, the pan envelope in Reaper is very simple as well. Just select your track and hit P on your keyboard. So now we're going to go right up around here where the lead guitar kicks in, and using Shift to draw a couple of envelope points, one for the beginning of the pan change and one for the end of it. Then we can grab the second point in our pan, move it where we want it to go. This one I was moving to 38 left. Now if we play that section again, moving that part slightly off to the left gives it its own space to be able to do its thing. And as well, it leaves the center channel open for the lead guitar to live in. One thing to be careful of when you're doing this kind of panning is any send effects that the track you're panning has. In this case, this track was sending pre-fader and pre-pan to a delay on a separate track. So we just have to make sure to go to that separate track and do the same panning to that. Now, like I mentioned with the last trick, little tricks like this can help keep your mix fluid and interesting, while also being helpful for directing the attention of your listener to the main elements of the song. So if you set your tracks up like I do with the main track on one channel and your reverb or delay on the other channel, you can automate the amount of signal that your main channel is sending to your effect to create all kinds of different atmospheres in your song. I use this one a lot on vocal tracks. If, say, at the end of one of the singer's phrases I want there to be a little extra reverb blossom, just automate an extra decibel or two for that reverb send. Or for example, if you want your vocal to kind of sound like it's fading off into the distance, you can start fading out your vocal track but increase the send to your reverb to have it sound more reverby while the vocal signal's fading out. So for this example, we're going to jump over to a different mix I had worked on. So here's a vocal track right near the end of the song. So I want to make that word back sound like it's fading off into the distance. So I've already got a lot of automation going on the volume of the vocal track, but we'll get into that on part 2 of this automation video. So for this example, I'm going to go to my automation settings here, trim volume, and during that word back, we're going to bring down the trim volume. Okay, so we've got the vocal volume going down now, but it still doesn't sound like she's fading off into the distance. So we're going to go into our automation envelopes over here where it says trim. FX example is the name I gave to our reverb track, which I've already set up. So we're going to find FX example send volume. So we've got the send volume to this track set pretty low, so that it's just barely there right up until the end of the track. So right where our trim volume starts fading, we're going to do the opposite on our effects send. I should mention that for this effect to work properly, you have to have your send set as a pre-fader send. Otherwise, the automation that you just did to the vocal track will affect the level of the send. Then we're going to take this send volume, bring it, let's over-exaggerate it a little bit. That's a bit of an over-exaggerated sound, but there's how you do it. Automating sends like this is a great way to add little bits of ear candy throughout your mix. Whether it be something like a big reverb on one snare shot, a little bit of extra reverb blossom on the end of a vocal track, or a bit of delay but only on 1 or 2 notes or words. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, I'll have 3 more automation tips to give you next week. If you liked this video and would like to see more content like this one, hit that subscribe button, throw me a like, and hit that notification bell so that you can get notified anytime I release new content. Thanks again for tuning in today, guys. Happy tracking, and we'll see you next time.